Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Now, these are conversations with remarkable people whose passion and ideas contribute to a better world. Today, we're talking about the changing landscape of human emotion, connection, and sexuality with Skyy Wells, an educator and practitioner focused on intimacy, communication, and emotional regulation. She holds a master's degree in human sexuality and, as a practitioner, represents an emerging area of interest for a growing number of people searching for answers. Skyy, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your journey into this arena where you help people connect with their emotions, passions, and desires.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I have a real interest in what I would call a lack of conversation that's not happening. The the first thing I would have to say is people need to be talking more about what they do and don't want. And it's not something that's built in at a young age. We're not supposed to talk about this. It becomes something that's almost shameful. And part of my job is to help them realign different parts of their body so they're able to communicate these things freely and have a better relationship in and out of the bedroom.
In the media, there's a lot of talk about connection and how even some of the protests are bringing people together face to face, using social media as an invitation and a news source. We see a lot of young people engage in this process after years of media leeching out human connection. Social media is, in a sense, finding its place as a tool rather than an obsession. What was once new age and fringe is now real. People are looking to get in touch with their emotions or feelings, find some validation in person. Now, that's a pretty unexpected and surprising experience happening. How do you view this as you see things evolving?
I think we've forgotten how much we need each other, much more than an opinion or a thought. I think we have forgotten that we do need a village. It does take an entire community to raise a child. And there's so many children that don't have that anymore that when they do find someone that is a kindred spirit or someone that maybe thinks the same way they do, they there's an immediate bonding that happens and people are lashing onto that because there's nothing else to have their interest besides a screen anymore. It doesn't make any sense for kids to be outside because as far as their parents are concerned, it's too dangerous. They don't want them outside to begin with. So they're left indoors by themselves. And isolating is the worst thing we can do. So I'm glad to see people getting out and coming together regardless of race, age, gender, identity, any of it. We're all coming together for the better good. And there couldn't be anything better than us just getting together as humans and agreeing on something.
Now, is this also becoming sort of an equalizer between men and women? I mean, is this something that's creating maybe a balance in ways of communicating? Or is there definitive, like, men are on Mars and women on Venus, however that went? I'm just using that. But, how is this aligning with the social constructs? Because craving attention is also intimacy, and intimacy has a it's people look at men and women look at each other differently.
Agreed. Agreed. The lines have blurred. There's no real role for anyone to play anymore, so everyone's making it up as they go. And most that were given a solid base to stand on, that's been ripped away, so they don't know what to stand on, and everyone's having to build back up. And the sad thing is that we're all having to do the same thing. And instead of doing it with others in our community of the same age or hobbies or whatever interest you might want to take, instead of doing that with people, we're doing it by ourselves. And we think we're the only one. We don't think anyone else is going through this. We don't know that anyone else is affected. And instead of it being a community effort, it's become an individual effort. And that's crazy. We're never going to win by ourselves. It's going to take all of us.
What about a person that feels like they're alone in this world? I mean, to talk about connection and emotional regulation and stuff. I mean, that seems like it could be a big barrier for somebody that's more of an introvert than an extrovert. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. It can definitely be a barrier for those who are even the neurodivergent. I was talking to another therapist recently, and one of her clients is having a problem with touch because they are neurodivergent. And having had to have been isolated because of the virus and we were all in shutdown, people have forgotten how to even interact with people on a one-on-one basis. And our nervous systems are so overloaded because we were at home and we were in a safe space. And now we have to go back out into the world. And because lines have been blurred, it doesn't feel as safe as it used to. So there's not a want to reach out as much because they're afraid they're going to be stung as soon as they do. But there's so many that are kind of waiting for someone to say, "Hey, I feel that way too." And the connection is so important because as long as we're isolated, we're not fulfilling all of our needs as a human, and that is other people. We weren't meant to go it alone. We were not meant to stand in this world alone. We were not meant to isolate. That is not a part of how we are built as humans. And men may need to get together and do an activity, and women may need to get together and throw a party or do something more on the nurturing side. But then there are women that like to do activities and men that like to nurture. So again, the lines are blurred and it's whatever you feel. And it's gotten to the point where no one no one's reaching out. No one is saying anything to each other. They're afraid to. Opinions have become such a thing now that you can't even speak your mind or share personal thoughts because you're afraid you're going to get judged. And the
That
surprising
makes
thing is, hmm?
that makes it tough. I mean, that makes it really tough. I'd like to get into that. Let's take a short break. We come back. Let's talk about that sort of fear of connection and how to break some of those barriers down. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
This is how we do at MC22. 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 Providing you entertainment when you're bored out of your mind on our channel or the Plus and online anytime.
From the Quad Squad to the Spirit Lakes team, we bring your local action straight to your screen.
This is how we do at MC22.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Skyy Wells about human connection, intimacy, and desires. Skyy, you started to talk about, how people balance things to begin this journey of reconnecting. Tell us more.
I think it's going to begin with putting yourself out there just a little bit. There are little things that you can do, and that is to remember that all of us are human. It really is not going to come down to anything other than what they have been through as a person and what they might go through going forward. All of us are going to effectively go through the exact same things, possibly in different orders, but we're going through the same things. It's part of the human experience is to get to go through the ups and the downs and the bad and the ugly and the things you want to talk about and the things you want to hide. That's part of the journey, and we're all on it. So as long as we remember that it's not just us, it's every single person we know, it's the strangers in the stores, it's the people we work with. We're seeing parts of us in everybody, whether we like it or not, we're seeing it. And we have to remember that connection is the biggest part of your mental health. And being by yourself, you can't do it by yourself. It's impossible. There's no way it's going to happen. And I'm going to say it, and you're not going to like it, but you can't do it alone. you need help. And whether that's a friend, a brother, sister, spouse, coworker, therapist, coach, best friend, whatever it takes, you have to start with somebody. And as long as you do it, the starting is what counts.
You know, I have an interesting thing that's happened to me because it sort of started during COVID. Because we all, of those of us that are sort of introverts, welcomed COVID, and it was sort of like the world was on our terms. But I noticed that I used to go through the grocery store never looking at people. You know, you sort of stay in your tunnel vision. You just,
Yeah.
it's a private place. It's, you know, you don't cross into somebody else's space except very graciously. And then when masks came about and we're all walking around looking like we don't even know who we are, I started making connections with eyes. You know, and I started saying hello to people because they were sort of non-threatening. I just saw the eyes, you know,
Right.
and people would say hello, and didn't mean we became buddies or friends or even knew each other's names, but sometimes something as simple as a little connection was non-threatening to me, but it made me feel good. Yet I didn't get anything for it. And it was just a simple hello to a complete stranger that I probably couldn't recognize without a mask on.
Right.
And now I realize walking around the world without masks, that's wrong. Everybody has a mask on. Everybody has, like, there's this veil that we build in front of us. And you seem to be talking about breaking some of that down to be more honest in interacting with people, but that seems risky. It seems like, are you taking a risk? Is it a chance?
It is. I think it is. I like what you say about we're still wearing a mask, because essentially that's what all of this is. When I get in makeup, I always say I'm putting on drag, because that's how I feel about it. I'm putting on something that's not me, and I'm making myself look different to appease everybody else. And it is just phenomenal how people do think that they have to be somebody else, when in and of ourselves we are more than enough. Just alone we are more than enough, but with others we become better. Other people, they challenge us, they push us, they pull, they comfort. They're around for a reason, and it's to get us to be better people. And that's one of the best ways to grow, is in relationship. Not necessarily a romantic relationship, although it can be, but any type of relationship, family relationships, they're so hard because they're meant to make us grow. They're meant to challenge us. They're meant to do these things to make us better, because they know our faults. They know, who we were as a teenager and who we were as that stubborn kid. They know, so they can say without a shadow of a doubt, okay, look, she has a little bit of a confrontational side. Okay, well, guess what? I have a confrontational side. So what I do is I start to use it for good, not evil, so to speak. I start to use it in situations where it's necessary. So for me, it was something that, it takes a little time, but knowing that you can put that mask on and be confident in that sometimes makes the difference.
Well, good. We'll take a short break and continue with Skyy Wells, talking about sort of how we negotiate ourselves through the world in the most honest and connecting way possible. See you all after the break.
Local programming at your fingertips. Access to MC22 is easier than ever before and available to all Mediacom subscribers. Go to mc22.net, log into your Mediacom account, click Watch MC22, and then browse our catalog of local programming available for you. Anywhere, anytime. mc22.net/watch.
Dear future, we haven't met yet. We don't know what you look like. But at Mediacom, we think about it every day. And we'll say this: if we keep working as hard as we have the past 3 decades, if we keep adding miles of fiber, if we keep advancing our technology, if we keep raising the bar and raising each other up, we won't just be ready for you, we'll be leading the way. Sincerely, Mediacom.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking to Skyy Wells about emotions central to people's hopes, desires, building a sense of connection, and ultimately finding happiness. Now, there's an interesting word that has almost dual meanings in sort of the psychology of existing, communication, and you stress that. But communication can be both an opportunity and a barrier. What are good ways to try and negotiate that challenge?
Well, I think I would suggest remembering that communication is going to be different in every relationship. With every partner that you're going to be with throughout your life, that relationship is going to be different than the next or the few you've had before. So if you can remember that each person communicates differently and needs to hear you differently, and that essentially it is your job to give them that roadmap on how to treat you. They don't know what your wants and needs are and your likes and dislikes unless you tell them. So communication can make it very easy to get what you want. And I think that's another part of the conversation not being had, is to express these things, and the fact that you can say yes, you can say no. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. It can be a maybe or a not yet. But in and out of the bedroom, even with, coworkers and strangers or friends, family, your relationship communication is going to be key. And if you can figure out what you want, then talking to everyone else is going to be so much easier, because then you're not worried about what they want. You have your boundaries set and you can have your confusion gone. And then at the end of the day, you're still happy because you had your boundaries in line, and they're still happy because they know how to treat you and they know how to say things. They know how to make you happy because you've given them the tools to do so just simply by communicating with them.
Now, I'm going to go back into this word of communication. So many people, especially in relationships, talk about the fact that he doesn't listen to me, or she doesn't listen to me, or she's not hearing me. It becomes, communication is almost like an altercation. Are we sometimes, is it because we're too quick to judge as listeners? Because we're not giving the people the authority to share what they really feel without questioning? Because that may be, there may be one side of that equation that we've become really bad at, and that's listening.
That is true. That is true. Most I find are listening with the intent to answer, not with the intent to understand. And that can lead to a problem. In any relationship, when someone is telling you what they feel, you can't change that because you don't like it. So if you have tried to communicate your feelings and your partner is not understanding, then it could be a miscommunication, and it's either not coming across in a way that they can understand, or maybe it needs to be broken down to what's actually going on. Because 9 times out of 10, the actual argument has nothing to do with the real problem. And that can come with that again, in any relationship across the board, you're going to have miscommunication. But if you can figure out what you want and how you see it and be as clear as possible, then it is up to the other person to understand, because you've been as clear as you can. Some of it is on them, as far as what they're doing, as far as that they're actually listening to you, if they're playing on their phone, if they're looking across the room, if they're thinking about the groceries, or if they're thinking about the car needs to get fixed. There is a certain amount of respect expected when you go into a conversation like this. And if you're struggling with that, then I would step back and look at what else is going on that may have caused this barrier of communication.
Well, is it possible that a person, well, there's two parts to this question. Can you just know too much? How do you get to sort of an organic level of communicating without trying to be analyzing? But is it also under the rules that only two can play this game? Or is there a part of communicating with yourself that's an element of this?
Oh, yes. there are ways to communicate with each other that it goes above and beyond necessary. And in those moments, you're probably no longer trying to understand each other and you're just trying to win. And then there's several methods that you can take to stop and get yourself back to a regulated nervous system, because at this point, I'm sure it's all over the place. So I would suggest, if you get into these situations where you are going back and forth and no one's listening anymore, stop and take 5 to 10 seconds and just be quiet. If you are quiet and you do some deep breathing, your brain will tell your nervous system that you're relaxed and you guys can both calm back down and try again. If that doesn't work, then you take longer, or you dismiss the argument for a while and go get back into a base level mode. There's no need for these really big arguments. Yes, they happen. But if you guys were on the same level and your nervous systems were regulated, it would be a lot harder to have these triggers explode so often, and it would be much easier to communicate with each other.
All right,
And
let's
then,
take a short break. I'd like to come back and have you share some advice, insights, maybe inspiration for people, some techniques that they can use to become better listeners and to invest more in the kind of communication that's necessary to maybe heal the world we live in today and our relationships. So stay tuned. We'll see you all after the break. You don't want to miss this one.
Mediacom Mobile. You'll love the service and the savings. Unbeatable nationwide coverage. Unlimited data. Unbelievably affordable. Switch and save 30% or more over the top 3 mobile providers. Get unlimited mobile for just $40 per line per month. Bam. No hidden fees, no contracts. Switching is cake. Keep your phone, keep your number, everything you love, except the big bill. Mediacom Mobile. Call or shop online.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we talked about the changing landscape of human emotion, connection, and sexuality with Skyy Wells, an educator and practitioner focused on intimacy, communication, and emotional regulation. Let's see what insights and inspiration Skyy has to share with us today. Skyy, the floor is yours. Set out some advice and some inspiration for our viewers.
well, let me just suggest, everyone look at their head, their heart, and their private parts and the connection there, and make sure that they play well together and that they're wanting to play well together. Going forward, I think it's going to help having that alignment there to balance everything out in what I call their sexual geometry.
Now, let's hear more about this. When you call it sexual geometry, that was a loaded one. What does that mean?
It's the relationship between how you treat yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and then your boundaries around that, or how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others, or how you think they feel about you, and your communication styles. It's a geometry that's ever changing, and I like the idea of it because it gives someone a shifting shape to look at, that as you grow, so does it, and it's going to change with you for the rest of your life.
You know, that you're almost touching on the taboo of people. I mean, there's just so many of these things people don't feel comfortable talking about.
Amen.
How do they get
Yes.
started? I mean, let's say somebody has a husband, wife, friend, spouse, mom, dad. How do they get started? What are some good ways for them to open the door to communication? Because, as soon as you start something like that, it triggers all the old responses.
It does. It does. If you can get one spouse to be quiet and lay down, and not do anything, and take the other spouse and have them softly touch the other one for 10 minutes without interruption, it's going to start changing the way that they look at each other. It's going to build trust and it'll build confidence in both of them. Something small, but it absolutely works.
So intimacy is has a lot to do with touching too.
It does. It does. Intimacy isn't always touching though, and I think that's what people need to remember is intimacy is that wink across the room at your partner when you see them looking really cute. Intimacy can be the note left in the lunchbox or in a desk drawer or in the car compartment. Intimacy is so many little things that I think people need to kind of relook it. What? That's not even. I think people need to relook in intimacy and see what things they're missing out on from not having these conversations with their partners.
Yeah, one final thing I want to bring up, because I want to extend the idea of partner to friends, neighbors, and sometimes even a little bit of strangers, is that no matter how crazy this world's today, what we're seeing is people connecting on the streets, on social media, and everywhere else. And there's this huge desire that you're right on the wave of people wanting to reconnect and find that. And, do you feel hopeful that this world is moving in the right direction? Not forget politics, just with people connecting.
I am forever hopeful with people. I think all of us are looking for something bigger than ourselves now. And, you kind of get tired of your own BS after a while. So, at some point, I do believe that we're all going to remember that it does, in fact, take a village. And I think that they're going to start remembering that the community around them is much more important than the ones they're seeing on their screen. Even though it is sad, and I am sorry for what's going on across the world, we need to worry about our neighbors and our neighborhoods first.
Skyy, thank you so much for sharing your ideas and being here with us today. And thank you all for watching. We will invite you to watch MediaCom MC22 and MC22.net for all of our episodes of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration with some of America's most remarkable people. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.